This is shocking. 700 million of the world's married women were wed before they turned 18. That's according to UNICEF. This means that 28 girls are entering into child marriage every minute worldwide, some 15 million girls per year. Tragically, some are as young as 8 years old. Two of the regions where child marriage is most common are South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa. So as a result of these unions, in countries in those regions, the leading cause of death for girls between the ages of 15 and 19 is pregnancy and childbirth. If nothing is done to prevent child brides from being forced into marriage, 1.2 billion girls will be at risk by 2050. Jane Sloane is fighting to protect the rights and dignity of child brides and hopes to see an end to these practices in her lifetime. The vice president of programs at Global Fund for Women, her organization has funded 241 organizations in 53 countries that are all working to end early marriage. Today, she's here to share what can be done to change these startling statistics. I want to welcome you to Full Frame, Jane.
Thanks very much. It's great to be here.
I always say that people who have purpose-driven lives, they're like candles. Something or something ignites that candle, and in your case, it was Nelson Mandela. Tell us the story.
Yes, I had a day with Nelson Mandela in 2000, just before the Olympic Games, actually, and he said to me, Jane, if you really want to make a difference in your life, you should focus on conflict resolution and citizen-led change. And that really took me in the direction that I'm now focused on, which is really fighting for the rights of women and girls worldwide.
People don't focus on this one, and it's tragic. And it's widespread, isn't it?
It's very widespread. And in countries like Niger in West Africa, 75% of girls under the age of 18 are married off early. And in places like Ethiopia, girls are actually initiated into a practice where if they're 8 or 9, they're taken out and they're taught how to handle a man. And then they're brought a man who they don't know at all, and they're forced to have sex with him. And then after that, they're considered to be a woman. And so within 2 years of that early practice, they're married off and then expected to really serve that man for the rest of their life.
And you've met some of these girls along the way, undoubtedly. What is it like? I mean, it's so tragic because you think of a life having an arc to it. Their life is over at a very young age. I mean, it's already predestined, isn't it? It
is. If you can imagine a girl of 9 or 10 years old who really doesn't know anything other than her family, to suddenly be married off, often to an older man, to imagine herself being in a very different household where she is expected to serve his every whim and to not have any access to an education, to not have any other life other than really serving within that household or within that environment. It's a really tragic waste of life for a girl. It means that she no longer has the opportunity of an education, of any kind of job or livelihood. Her dreams are lost in that situation. It really means that if we, to your earlier statistic, if we're looking at 2050, 1.2 billion girls will be in this situation.
As a parent, you know, I always think I want what's best for my kids. This clearly, to most of us, we think that this is not what's best. So talk to us about all the different things that kind of flow into this.
Well, 75% of families who do marry their children off early, particularly girls, are living on less than $2 a day. So poverty has a lot to do with decisions that parents make to marry off their daughter or their son. Often it's also because of a debt that a family will have, where it's easier to marry off their daughter and to pay back that debt than to do anything else. Sometimes it's because of the honour that parents feel towards their daughter. They want to keep her safe, and so they feel the best way to keep her safe is to marry her off early so that she isn't violated, if she isn't raped. The irony, of course, is that girls who are married off early are twice as likely to be violated or to be abused within that marriage. So even though parents will often see it as a safe way of ensuring that their daughters are protected, often they're actually doing the opposite. The other thing is in countries like Bangladesh, where which has the highest rate of girls being married off under the age of 15. It's compounded by the level of natural disasters. There's constant natural disasters, and so parents again often panic at that time because of lack of access to food and water, and will think the best way that they can either get some more income for the rest of their family or ensure that their daughter has food and water is to marry her off at that time. And with the increasing number of natural disasters and climate change impact, it means that situation is really playing out in many countries around the world.
You know, it's interesting. I'm sure when you entered this field, you were like, I'm going to go attack this. But I'm sure you must have come in with some idea of what the situation was like. And what were the things that you saw outside of that scope that really surprised you?
The love that parents have for their daughters and sons, I think that it's very easy to be judgmental about how can they possibly marry off their daughter at such a young age, and yet they're very complex feelings and beliefs and reasons for marrying off girls quite early. Also, though, I would say the tenacity of girls to try and fight that situation, and of course that's what we really focus on. We focus on supporting girls and women to realise their rights, to understand that they have rights to claim, and how to be able to fight against that practice. And one of the most effective ways to do that is to support women's groups and groups of girls to be able to lobby community chiefs and people within their villages or communities to agree to not marry off a girl early. And one example I can give of where that's worked really well was there was a girl in one village that we were supporting, and she had a disability. She had a leg that had been badly burned from a cook stove, and her father wanted to marry her off because he saw her as a real burden on the family and felt that it would be better to marry her early. And her friends, who knew how much she wanted to go to school, brought together everyone within the local community to the family, to the household, and gave the father all the reasons why it was better for his daughter to go to school rather than for him to marry this girl off. And he came up with a lot of reasons, including, well, she won't be able to walk to school, there's the problem of transport, and one of the girls said that they would put her on her bike and carry her to work each day. And that's actually what ended up happening. I mean, the irony was his daughter was actually walking as far every day to deliver this man lunch every day, but he really felt that it would be better for her to be married off. But in the end, what happened was he agreed to the wishes of this girl group, he agreed to the wishes of the community, and to this day she's being donkeyed to work every day on the back of this bike, and she's now got a dream of becoming a doctor once she finishes school. So it just shows the power of girls, and I think rather than girls feeling that decisions are being made on their behalf, when girls feel that they have their own power to claim, it makes a huge difference in terms of what's possible. And of course that needs to be coupled with advocating for changes at a national level and getting governments to change laws at a national level as well.
And you know, we were talking about the ages of these young girls. I can't imagine for a minute a little girl like these that you're describing being pregnant, having to deliver a child, and this is a real issue as well, the health concerns. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, so you can imagine a girl of 9 or 10 not really knowing very much about sex, being penetrated the first time, getting pregnant at the age of 9 or 10, giving birth, if she actually gets through a pregnancy, of course, because the rate of girls dying in pregnancy is 1 in 5 for any girl under the age of 15. So that's very high. But even if she gets through pregnancy, she faces a lot of health issues over her time. It might be fistula, it might be any number of other disorders, both physical and psychological, because girls just aren't psychologically prepared to be able to either carry a child or to even be a mother at that age as well. And of course, if they don't have access to sexual and reproductive health information, they don't know about how to be able to protect themselves. And so having access to those services, what we say at Global Fund for Women is there's 4 things that we really need to do to be able to support gender equality and girls' empowerment. One is for a girl to know her rights. The second is for a girl to be able to access resources so that she has the information and the support that she needs. The third is to be able to influence and change community attitudes and behaviour, and that's often the hardest thing to change, people's mindsets. And the fourth is to be able to change laws and legislation. And the laws and legislation aren't just about passing laws, which is what happened in Ethiopia earlier and now in Bangladesh. It's then ensuring that those laws are implemented, because quite often you can have a law that says we make it illegal for any girl to be married under the age of 18, but often those laws also have a rider that says except at parents' discretion. And it's often parents' discretion or parents paying bribes to local community chiefs that means that those girls are married off as young as 9 or 10, or their birth certificates are changed.
What, you know, not just that they're second-class citizens, that they have no rights in many respects. What does that do to you when you're thinking about your day and approaching your day every day, trying to change this?
I think it speaks to the power of women, because Global Fund has supported groups, women who've ended civil wars, women who've become Nobel Peace Prize winners as a result of a dream that a woman has had. One woman's dream has become an incredible reality. If you think about what Malala has done, if you think about Wangari Maathai, who had a dream to have a greenbelt movement that ended up planting millions of trees. If you think about Laima Gabawi, she had a dream to end the civil war in Liberia. She managed to do that with many other women who we supported, to get the first women president of Liberia elected. All of that because we believed, they believed in their own power of dreaming. And I think that that's an incredibly important thing to hold on to, that you trust women, that you trust girls to know what's needed, and that we find the funds at every level to be able to make that dream a reality. And that's what I hold on to in my work. It's so important to believe in one girl, because if you can believe in one girl, then she'll make the most incredible things possible. And I think that we have to do so much more to really recognise what happens at a grassroots level when we get not just money into the hands of those girls, but also give them a voice, lift them up to be able to speak for themselves, and they'll do the most incredible work as a result.
One final question before we go. Nelson Mandela, that linkage to you, that he changed your life, and you know that you're changing lives. What about his legacy through you and through all these other people that you're touching?
Well, I think the most incredible thing about Nelson Mandela is that he really recognised what it was like to be in someone else's shoes. That whole idea of I am thou, you are me and I am you, and that we are all connected in a very powerful way. And once you really embrace that idea, once you recognise that there is very little difference between us, then a lot of prejudices, a lot of barriers fall down. And it means that a whole other world is possible. And that's his great legacy to us, that great hope, the belief that you can actually change the world. And I think that we've all got that ability within us.
Well, we certainly know you're doing your part. So, Jane, thanks so much for coming in and talking to us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
We'll be back in a moment with this week's Full Frame Close-Up.